What's up, everybody, and how are you? Welcome back to the Arya Habibi show, and as always, thank you again for tuning in week after week, for subscribing, liking, commenting, all that good stuff. You guys are the reason why I keep doing this. If you missed last episode, I'm going to go ahead and leave the link for that right up here. It's about your favorite rappers and what their real names are. So if you want to get, a few chuckles out of that, go ahead and click on that link and you'll be able to check that out. This week, we're actually celebrating our 10th episode, so I decided since it's the right time of the year, we're going to be doing our Halloween special. That's right, we're going to be doing our Halloween special, and this is the week, and this is the weekend, this is the time where you have to be watching some scary movies because, this week it's Halloween and jack-o'-lanterns and murder and all this kind of stuff, and next week it's candy canes and it's beginning to look a lot like this. If you guys end up watching a movie from this list, I want you to comment which one it was down below, and I want to know if you enjoyed it or not. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, please subscribe to the channel, comment, like. It does help the channel a lot. And without further ado, let's go freak ourselves out with some scary movies. Star Wipe. In no particular order, since it's Halloween, let's go ahead and start with the original Halloween movie. Halloween is a 1978 American slasher film directed and scored by John Carpenter. Starring Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut, the plot tells a story about a mental patient who was committed to a sanitarium for murdering his teenage sister on Halloween night when he was 6 years old. 15 years later, he escapes and returns to his hometown, where he stalks a female babysitter and her friends while under pursuit by a psychiatrist. Filming took place in Southern California in May 1978 before premiering in October, where it grossed $70 million, becoming one of the most profitable independent films of all time. Now here's an interesting fact you may not know about the original Halloween. Since it was filmed in California and it was supposed to be, a Halloween movie, they couldn't actually have any leaves that are changing colors. So there's actually a couple of scenes where you can see there's a whole bunch of leaves that apparently the crew had to go and gather, get in bags and bring there. And if you look carefully, you can actually see some palm trees in the back. So obviously there was something that they had to do, but you know what? Most people didn't notice it. I honestly didn't notice it myself. But if you look carefully, you can really tell that they're actually in California and not in Haddonfield, Illinois, where it's supposed to be taking place. It's really funny, actually, if you pay attention. Primarily praised for Carpenter's direction and score, many credit the film as the first in a long line of slasher films inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Bob Clark's Black Christmas. Halloween spawned a film franchise comprising of 11 films, which helped construct an extensive backstory for its antagonist, Michael Myers, sometimes narratively diverging entirely from previous installments. A Rob Zombie remake was released in 2007, which was followed by a sequel in 2009. An 11th installment, which served as a direct sequel to the original film that removes all previous sequels, was released in 2018. Two sequels to that installment, titled Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, are scheduled for release on October 15, 2021 and October 14, 2022, respectively. Additionally, a novelization, a video game, and a comic book series have all been based on the film. In 2006, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Now, if you're in my family, you know that Halloween was the really scary movie that freaked you all out. Well, there's actually one more movie that used to freak my family out. Shout out to my brother and shout out to my cousin Shabazz, because, we used to always watch the horror movies together when we were growing up. So yeah, thanks for introducing me to this freaky stuff at a very young age, bro. Next on our list, we have The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a 1973 American supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin, based on a 1971 novel of the same name by Blatty. The film stars Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Lee J. Cobb, Kitty Wynn, Jack McGowan in his final film role, Jason Miller, and the young Linda Blair. It is the first installment of the Exorcist film series and follows the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl and her mother's attempt to rescue her through an exorcism conducted by two priests. Although the book had been a bestseller, Blatty, who produced, and Friedkin, his choice for director, had difficulty casting the film. After turning down or being turned down by major stars of the era, they cast in the lead roles the relatively little-known Burstyn and the unknown Linda Blair, and Miller, the author of a hit play who had never acted in movies before, casting choices that were vigorously opposed by studio executives at Warner Bros. Pictures. Principal photography was also difficult. Most of the set burned down, and Blair and Burston suffered long-term injuries in accidents. Ultimately, the film took twice as long to shoot as scheduled and cost more than twice its initial budget. The Exorcist was released in 24 theaters in the United States and Canada in late December. Audiences flocked to it, waiting in long lines during winter weather, many doing so more than once despite mixed critical reviews. Some viewers had adverse physical reactions, often fainting or vomiting, to scenes in which the protagonist undergoes a realistic cerebral angiography and violently stabs her in her. Okay, well, just watch the movie, okay? With a crucifix. There were reports of heart attacks and miscarriages, and a psychiatric journal even carried a paper on cinematic neurosis triggered by the film. Many children were taken to see the film, leading to charges that the MPAA ratings board had accommodated Warner Brothers by giving the film an R rating instead of an X rating that they thought it deserved in order to ensure its commercial success. A few cities tried to ban it outright or prevent children from seeing it, and obscenity concerns kept the film from home video release in the United Kingdom until 1999. Damn, bro. 1999? Yo, UK, you guys are like, oh my god, she's doing what with a crucifix? But honestly, the Exorcist is actually, it's a crazy movie. If you haven't watched it, you're going to actually notice a couple of times throughout the movie, there are some flashes. I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but those flashes are actually supposed to trigger your subconscious, and you're actually supposed to see those pictures of the demon, basically. Pazuzu, I think it was called. You're supposed to see that demon every once in a while, like after you see the movie, and some people had reverse effects to it. One guy apparently even passed out to the point where he fell forward, slammed his jaw on the seat in front of it, shattering his jaw, sued them, and ended up getting, like a settlement deal or something with them. And I thought that that's absolutely, I've never watched a movie that has made me pass out. I've watched, actually, Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, made me fall asleep. That's like the only movie I've ever fallen asleep in. But other than that, like, wow. The cultural conversation around the film, which also encompassed its treatment of Roman Catholicism, helped it become the first horror film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, one of 10 Academy Awards it was nominated for, winning for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Sound. It was the highest grossing R-rated horror film until the release of another movie on our list. The Exorcist has had a significant influence on pop culture and has received critical acclaim, with several publications having regarded it as one of the greatest horror films of all time. In 2010, the Library of Congress selected the film to be preserved as part of its National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Next on our list, we have It. It, retroactively known as Chapter 1, is a 2017 American supernatural horror film based on Stephen King's 1986 novel of the same name. It is the first film in the It film series, as well as being the second adaptation following Tommy Lee Wallace's 1999 miniseries starring Tim Curry. That version was the fuel for many kids' nightmares, myself included, but if you watch that today, it's almost comical. And if you think about it, like, we were kids, so obviously we got scared of it, but this was for a made-for-TV movie, so they couldn't really freak you out the way that this new one did, and that's why I went with the newer version. But if you watch it, man, Tim Curry's performance as It was, like I said, the fuel for nightmares for many kids. Me, my brother used to freak us out with it, and I won't forget that. The film tells the story of 7 children in Derry, Maine, who are terrorized by the supernatural being, only to face their own personal demons in the process. The film is directed by Andy Muschietti and has a great cast, including stars Jaden Lieber, Sophia Lillis, Finn Wolfhard, and Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise himself. Principal photography began in Toronto on June 27, 2016 and ended on September 21, 2016. The locations for It included the municipality of Port Hope, Oshawa, Ontario, and Riverdale, Toronto. So basically, to anyone who's watching this, in Toronto, Oshawa, Port Hope, any of these places, yeah, you live where Pennywise lives. Just saying. It premiered in Los Angeles on September 5, 2017, and was released in the United States on September 8, 2017, in 2D and in IMAX. The film set numerous box office records and grossed over $701 million worldwide, becoming the 5th highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Unadjusted for inflation, it became the highest grossing horror film of all time, edging out The Exorcist in the process. It received positive reviews, with critics praising the performances, direction, cinematography, and musical score, and many calling it one of the best Stephen King adaptations ever. It has received numerous awards and nominations, earning 2 Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association nominations, including Best Acting Ensemble. It was nominated for the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Sci-Fi Horror Movie. The film won 3 Bogey Awards for pulling in more than 2 million German admissions in 11 days. The motion picture has been named as one of the best films of 2017 by various critics, appearing on several critics' end-of-the-year lists. A sequel, It Chapter 2, was released on September 6, 2019, and finishes the story in spectacular fashion. The film is directed by Andy Muschietti once again, returning from the first film with a screenplay by Gary Doberman. Next on our terrifying list, we have Terrifier, a newie but goodie. Terrifier is a 2016 American slasher film written, co-produced, and directed by Damien Leone. The film stars Jenna Cannell, Samantha Scafidi, Catherine Corcoran, and David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. The film follows Tara Hayes as she finds herself as Art's next target on Halloween night. It marks the second feature film appearance of Art the Clown character after Leone's 2013 anthology film All Hallows Eve, which incorporated footage from previous short films that were also directed by Leone and featured the character. The main setting of the film, a decrepit apartment building, has been likened to symbolizing a labyrinth that the characters must traverse through as they battle Art the Clown. Terrifier premiered at the Telluride Horror Show Film Festival in October 2016 before being picked up by Dread Central Presents and Epic Pictures for a limited theatrical release in March of 2018. In February of 2019, Damien Leone stated that a sequel for Terrifier was in production, with the other sequel script having already been written. The film went into production in October of 2019 with Fuzz on the Lens Productions as co-producers along with Dark Age Cinema. The film has delayed in its final days of shooting due to the current world situation. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this freaking clown's face. How could this movie not freak you out? If you're looking for a slasher film that actually will kind of creep the hell out of you, this is the movie to watch. Next on our Halloween horror list, we of course have to include the Friday the 13th series. Friday the 13th is an American horror franchise that comprises 12 slasher films, a television series, novels, comic books, video games, and tie-in merchandise. The franchise mainly focuses on fictional character Jason Voorhees, who drowned as a boy at Camp Crystal Lake due to the negligence of camp staff. Decades later, the lake is rumored to be cursed and is the setting for a series of mass murders. Jason is featured in all of the films as either the killer or the motivation for the killings. The original film, created to cash in on the success of Halloween in 1978, was written by Victor Miller and was produced and directed by Sean S. Cunningham. The films have grossed over $529 million at the box office worldwide. It was the highest grossing horror franchise in the world until the release of Halloween in 2018, putting the Halloween franchise in the top spot. While the franchise was owned by Paramount, 4 films were adapted into novels, with Friday the 13th Part 3 adapted by 2 separate authors. When the franchise was sold to New Line Cinema, Cunningham returned as a producer to oversee 2 additional films in addition to a crossover film with character Freddy Krueger from the A Nightmare on Elm Street film series. Under New Line Cinema, 13 novellas and various comic book series featuring Jason were published. Also, did you guys know that the iconic mask and him actually being the murderer, he didn't actually appear as the iconic killer until like the second movie, and the mask didn't actually pop up till like the third movie. Spoiler alert, but seriously, it's crazy to think that, because when you ask most people about Friday the 13th, they automatically will say Jason Voorhees, guy in the hockey mask, right? And the machete. And also, this is a great movie to watch if you're not a fan of Kevin Bacon for no reason, and you just hate Footloose, because he meets his demise in this movie as one of the characters. Next on our list, we have The Shining. The Shining is a 1980s psychological horror film produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick and co-written with novelist Diane Johnson. The film is based on Stephen King's 1977 novel of the same name and stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers, and Danny Lloyd. The film's central character is Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, an aspiring writer and recovering alcoholic who accepts a position as the off-season caretaker of the isolated historic Overlook Hotel in the Colorado Rockies. Wintering over with Jack are his wife, Wendy Torrance, and young son, Danny Torrance. Danny possesses the Shining, psychic abilities that enable him to see into the hotel's horrific past. The hotel cook, Dick Halloran, also has his ability and is able to communicate with Danny telepathically. The hotel has had previous winter caretaker who went insane and killed his family and himself. After a winter storm leaves the Torrance snowbound, Jack's sanity deteriorates due to the influence of the supernatural forces that inhabit the hotel, placing his wife and his son in danger. Production took place almost exclusively at EMI Elstree Studios with sets based on real locations. Kubrick often worked with a small crew which allowed him to do many takes, sometimes to the exhaustion of the actors and staff. The new Steadicam mount was used to shoot several scenes, giving the film an innovative and immersive look and feel. The film was released in the United States on May 23rd of 1980 and in the United Kingdom on October 2nd, 1980 by Warner Bros. Reactions to the film at the time of its release were mixed. Stephen King criticized the film due to its deviations from the novel. Critical opinions have become more favorable and it has become a staple of pop culture, including many shows having episodes influenced by the movie, including The Simpsons and South Park. In 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. A sequel, Dr. Sleep, was released on November 8, 2019 in the United States that follows the story of young Danny Torrance. The Shining is a movie I definitely recommend you guys checking out if you're down for like a psychological trip, because although people are saying, oh, it deviated from the novel, let's be honest, none of you guys are going to read the novel anyways. Watch the movie. It has some iconic scenes. If you guys also watched that episode that I had made about the best directors of all time, you'll know that it took them over 3 days and over, I think, 60 doors. I didn't get it right that time either, but it took them a whole bunch of takes just to get even that one scene of Jack Nicholson saying, "Here's Johnny." So I mean, this movie is absolutely insane. It's absolutely incredible. There's a very nasty scene with a naked grandma. So you've been warned.
Rob!
Naked grandma!
Naked, huh?
Up next, we have Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is a 2007 American supernatural horror film produced, written, directed, photographed, and edited by Oren Peli. It centers on a young couple who are haunted by the supernatural presence in their home. They then set up a camera to document what is haunting them. The film utilizes found footage conventions that were mirrored in later films of the series. The franchise consists of 6 films in addition to media. Later movies make use of production cameras and set them up to make them look like security cameras or other recording devices in an attempt to present the films as found footage. Created by Oren Peli, the original film was widely released in 2007. Originally developed as an independent feature and given film festival screenings in 2007, the film was shot for $15,000. Just so you guys know, $15,000 for a movie is absolutely nothing, okay? Most of the time, that $15,000 is probably the camera that they just rented to use, I'll be honest with you guys. It was then acquired by Paramount Pictures and modified, particularly with a new ending that cost an additional total of $200,000. It was given a limited US release on September 25th of 2009 and then a nationwide release on October 16 of 2019. The film earned nearly $108 million at the US box office and a further $85 million internationally for a worldwide total of $193 million. Today the film is known as the most profitable film ever made based on the return on investment. If you haven't watched any of these movies, they're pretty good to watch. As they kind of get further down in the series, they get kind of worse, but the first few are actually really good. I do recommend that you watch them. Next on our Halloween horror list, we have Hereditary. Hereditary is a 2018 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Arya in his feature film directorial debut. It stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, and Gabriel Byrne as a family haunted by a mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother. Hereditary premiered on January 21st of 2018 in the midnight section of the 2018 Sundance Film Festival and was theatrically released in the United States on June 8, 2018. It was a critical and commercial success, making over $80 million on a $10 million budget to become A24's highest grossing film worldwide. Now, this is a movie I don't want to tell you guys much about. It's an absolutely insane movie. I thought this was probably one of my favorite ones on this list, I won't lie. They're all pretty good, but this one was a more recent movie that stuck with me. It's something that you're gonna, if you pay attention to this movie, you will see some crazy stuff. So I would strongly suggest you guys watch this if you're down for one of those psychological, supernatural, it's just a mind trip overall. Next on our list, we have the cult classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 1974 American slasher film directed by Tobe Hooper and written and co-produced by Hooper and Kim Henkel. The film follows a group of friends who fall victim to a family of cannibals while on their way to visit an old homestead. The film was marketed as being based on true events to attract a wider audience and to act as a subtle commentary on the era's political climate. Although the character of Leatherface and minor story details were inspired by the crimes of murderer Ed Gein, the plot is largely fictional. Hooper produced the film for less than $140,000, $700,000 adjusted for inflation, and used a cast of relatively unknown actors drawn mainly from Central Texas, where the film was shot. The limited budget forced Hooper to film for long hours, 7 days a week, so that he could finish as quickly as possible and reduce equipment rental costs. Hooper limited the quantity of on-screen gore in hopes to secure a PG rating, but the Motion Picture Association of America rated it an R. Like, that's gotta be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You have a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you want this to be PG. Like, what are you thinking, man? Like, you know what's PG? The Lion King was PG, okay? Freaking Aladdin was PG. Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre being PG? No, not even PG-13, bruh. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned in several countries, and numerous theaters stopped showing the film in response to complaints about its violence. While it initially drew a mixed critical reception, it was highly profitable, grossing over $30 million at the domestic box office, equivalent with roughly over $150.8 million as of 2019, selling over 16.5 million tickets in 1974. It has since gained a reputation as one of the best and most influential horror films of all time. It is credited with originating several elements common in the slasher genre, including the use of power tools as murder weapons, the characterization of the killer as a large, hulking, faceless figure, and the killing of victims. Last but not least on our list, we have The Babadook. The Babadook is a 2014 Australian psychological horror film, written and directed by Jennifer Kent in her directorial debut, and produced by Christina Satan and Christian Moliere. The film is based on Kent's 2005 short film Monster. The film premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival and generated attention and critical acclaim in the United States and Europe, grossing $10.3 million against a $2 million budget. The Babadook was initially not a commercial success in Australia and was given a limited release in art house theaters beginning in May of 2014. You can currently stream this movie on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. I strongly recommend you guys check this one out. It's streaming, I think, on Netflix, or if not on Netflix, then it will be on probably on Amazon Prime. I hope, I don't get paid for this, but I hope that he could give me some money for this. But make sure you guys check that one out. It's creepy. It's about a woman. It's about her troubled son and stuff like that. I'm not gonna tell you guys too much about this movie because it's another one that's just better to watch. But make sure you guys watch that. I hope you guys enjoy this list. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the episode for today. I hope you guys had some fun. Happy Halloween in advance. If you guys end up watching one of these movies, or if you happen to learn something about one of your favorite horror movies, make sure you comment that down below. Make sure you also like the channel, subscribe. All your likes, your subscribes, your comments, all that stuff helps with the YouTube algorithms or whatever the hell it's called, and it helps this channel actually grow. I want you guys to please have a safe and happy Halloween, and I'll be back next time with something else that's completely random. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in, and have a happy Halloween. Peace out.